Okay. Welcome YouTube to Clear Vision Wednesday. Sorry about the delay. Today is a really, really important discussion that I have a deep connection with and something that my guest has also been studying. So let me bring her back, Dr. Marisol. I don't know how to say your last name.
I love it. Dr. Marisol Teijeiro. That's the official
Tejero.
spelling. Okay. Teijeiro.
So you're also known as the Castor Oil Queen or Queen of the Thrones. And obviously, I've been loving castor oil ever since I discovered it, probably like 7 years ago. And today, I studied yoga, you studied yoga, and, we want to talk a little bit about aligning our chakras, boosting our energy, and how castor oil can be helpful with that. And now some people might be like, chakras, what is that woo-woo stuff? We can call it energy centers, whatever it is. But I think everybody can relate to being out of alignment, right? And having like low energy and just feeling like you're just all over the place, mentally, physically, and you just can't focus. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you get into like using castor oil as a tool to help you feel more aligned and have more energy?
Amazing. So I was, as a young adult, 20 years old, and actually throughout my entire life, I dealt with a lot of anxiety and stress. And of course, the sequelae of that is lots of health issues and problems and, hormone issues and all that kind of stuff. And of course, I was taking the right measures. I was, going to see the right doctors. I was doing the right exercises. I was taking the right supplements, taking the right medicines. I was doing everything right. But I consistently had this feeling of that I was spinning in my body. And it's so funny because I would relate this to people and just say I just feel like I spin. And can they hear us okay? I hear one voice.
I don't know. I can hear everything. I don't
All good. Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay. Yeah, Trisha says it's okay. Great. So I would have this energetic sensation in my body. And at the time, I really wasn't connected to energy or chakras or anything like this. This was really in like I thought all this stuff was woo-woo, actually. I thought meditation was woo-woo. I thought all this stuff was woo-woo. Castor oil packs was woo-woo, all of it woo-woo. And I basically, compartmentalized it into like a cabinet and I wasn't going down that way. But I couldn't deny how I was feeling inside my body. And I couldn't deny that no matter what I was doing for my health, I still wasn't feeling that better. I was still experiencing the spins. I was experiencing myself all up in my head, conscious thoughts constantly, thoughts that would not like ever release or let go. They just were constantly moving and shaking. Like I would have, of course, because of that disrupted sleep. I wasn't in my skin. And that's how I can describe it right now. I wasn't in my skin. And most importantly, I wasn't grounded. And so when I started to become open to the concept of grounding or even meditation, which is kind of my gateway into the world of woo-woo, because meditation has quite a bit of research behind of it. So I loved that. And I
yeah.
thought, this is great. It's got a lot of research behind of it and it's proven to be effective. So do yoga practices as well too. So this is something that I can align with. Yoga was easy because yoga was physical body and movement. And I'd been a dancer my entire life. So for me, like moving my body was really beneficial. But then when it came to meditation, that was where I became very challenged. And meditation, the issue for me was that I would sit down, I would aim to create the proper space, proper environment, little candlelight, little this, cool air, right meditation cushion. And I would sit down on my cushion and immediately I would start to feel stressed out throughout my entire body. So I would almost get to the extent of like tightness in my chest, tightness in my shoulders. Again, my thoughts would race even more than they would have before I was even starting to meditate. And I would hyper focus on my breath so that I would inhale too much and exhale not enough. And so I was completely unbalancing my system and just putting myself into a very uncomfortable stress state. And it was not for trying. I tried so many times to meditate, but eventually I just kind of had to give up because the sensation and the feeling was just so uncomfortable. And you know, I'm hardcore like you are, whereas I don't give up easy. You
Right.
know, I don't give up easy, but it just came to the point where I just felt the discomfort was so huge. And that discomfort in my life was constant and consistent, and it just became more aggravated when I would try to meditate. And it wasn't a way to live. And then in my last year of naturopathic college, of course, stress builds on our system and depletes us and does not make us feel well. And I ended up becoming bedridden in my last year of naturopathic college. And I was super disappointed because here I was doing everything right. I was doing all supplements. Again, doctors, I was seeing everyone, doing everything. And I was doing everything that as a naturopathic doctor I would prescribe, And not only did I feel like I was losing faith in my profession, because I'm like, if this is my experience, what on earth is my patient's experience going to be like? So that was the big thing. And then the other thing was I just wanted to feel better and get out of bed and be able to go back to school and finish my schooling. I'd invested so much money and time, and it really was my dream to become a naturopath. And so it was that moment in time where a light bulb came up in my head. And I remembered something that I'd been spoken to about doing for over 20 years, which were castor oil packs. But if you remember, I put that and shelved it into the cabinet and hid it. I didn't want to speak about it because I thought it was too woo-woo. And I thought I would lose credibility, or what would people think about me? Like, am I crazy to think that this stuff works? But I had no other option, and it was the one thing that kept on popping up in my mind. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do this castor oil pack thing. So what I ended up doing, I wasn't pleased with the way that castor oil packs were done before, because they would, number one, you had to go and search out all the different tools and ingredients. And then one of the recommendations was to wrap your body in saran wrap. And, with oil and plastic don't mix. And so doing that on your body, especially in a gentle area such as your abdomen or over your liver, to me just did not connect. So I said, if I'm going to do this, I got to figure out an easy way to do it, because that's how I am. I like it easy. I like it quick. I like it fast, just like so many of you out there, listening. And so I ended up sewing my very first castor oil pack, which was literally a trade show bag that I folded, put a tea towel in it, all organic, and took the handles, made them into straps, and placed the castor oil on that package and put it on my liver. And that that exact moment changed my life, the moment that I put it on my liver. And if I could, this is the best way that I can explain it. It's a biblical reference, but for me, it felt like the sky opened up and angels began to sing. And so I just immediately felt like a sensation of connection, of literally what I interpret now as being grounded, feeling grounded in my body and in my skin again, and not just in my head and spinning like a mad top constantly and trying to, keep busy so I could move out that energy by, working too much or studying too much, or whatever I would use in order to like calm that stress down, which, at certain points in time was things like marijuana and alcohol, because I needed something to drop me down into my body. And, obviously I knew, it's not the best, obviously, to stick to marijuana and alcohol as a way to calm yourself down, and addictions to other things like, eating or snacking or any of those things. I knew that wasn't beneficial for me. So that was a big impetus for me also wanting to learn how to meditate. But these castor oil packs, they kind of solved the problem for me, because when I had put that castor oil pack on, from that moment forward, I was actually able to meditate. And in fact, I used the castor oil pack to ground me before a meditation so that I wouldn't be breathing all weird, and I wouldn't feel tightness in my chest, and I wouldn't, get tetanic because my breathing is hyper focused and my head, everything's in my head. And so it literally changed my life. And when I went back into clinical practice, which was, 3 months later, and actually my prognosis was that I would probably get back maybe a year if I was lucky. But I recuperated quickly because the grounding made such a massive impact in my energy. And when my energy shifted, and let's face it, everything is energy. Even though we look at our physical body, we are an energetic body having a physical experience. And for me, that shift into the grounding and back into my body allowed me to realign with like who I truly am, what I truly wanted out of life. Everything from that moment forward started kind of manifesting. And I became in that moment kind of like the queen of the thrones with castor oil, because I just ran back to school and was trying to get everyone in my last clinical residency year to do these castor oil packs. And no one wanted to do them because the same reasons I didn't want to do them. Messy, icky, where do I find this stuff? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And it doesn't make sense. And it's woo-woo, right? And so I realized then, and throughout my like over a decade of clinical practice, one of my main staples was castor oil and castor oil packs. I would have put every single patient on them. I would have them use it for beauty care, swapping out all of their many of their toxic beauty care ingredients that they may be products that they were using. I would have them use it in their hair. I would have them just use it all over their body and just learn how to use it as a way to ground and, apply self-love. Because one of the things with grounding, and something that I learned later on, is that grounding is really a form of self-love, because grounding is a form of feeling okay in one's skin and being okay in one's body. And without grounding, you never feel connected. You constantly feel disconnected. You feel like you're an alien on a different planet. Like, who here feels that way? So many of us do, right? We feel we're so strange, so different. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's
I would
common.
say, I mean, it's interesting you're talking a lot about grounding. I was at an event years and years ago, and they assigned you a Chinese element, right? Obviously, there's Ayurveda and all these different practices, but I got Earth, and that was definitely all about grounding. And when we talk about vision, a lot of times people think it's eye exercises, and I call it relax exercises or relaxing, because if we are not grounded, if we don't feel balanced and safe. And grounded is another way for me to say I feel relaxed and I feel like solid and balanced. Then
Yes.
we can't have we are then we're going to be in some kind of form of the sympathetic nervous system. There will be anxiety and worry and fear and all kinds of things popping up. And then we sit there meditating, and it's like in my practice, we do this palming, right? We close our, we rub the hands together, we close the eyes, and then we palm our eyes. But then your
Nice.
thoughts are just going to be, it's like a form of meditation that we do specifically for vision improvement. But
Love
then
it.
your thoughts are spinning all over the place. And only when I studied yoga, and I think you do too, I realized grounding down is how you can lift up and how you can get that energy like all the way through the chakras. If you're not grounded, and I think, let me ask you this, I think you're studying a little bit Ayurveda, because
Yes.
I was always more a pitta, like I was that hot, fiery, a little bit more kapha, that colder kind of
Earth.
dosha. But
Yeah.
you told me recently, and I think I totally agree, as we get older, we get more into the third dosha, which is that vata, that airiness. And I think even young people now, anxiety, attention problems, like spinning around, feeling like, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I
Yeah.
feel like we are all in this kind of, like you said, in this kind of frantic state these days, and using grounding. And I didn't discover castor oil packs until way later.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love them. I pretty much use my liver pack almost every night.
Yeah.
And now that I'm doing a liver cleanse this week, I'm actually doing it day and night. But tell
Awesome.
us a little bit about that. How can
Back.
we how are the
Yeah.
energy centers connected? When we talk about meditation, we talk about third eye, and we also talk about grounding down. Can you talk a little bit about the connection of all these energy centers or
Absolutely can.
chakras?
So I'll start with the doshas, which are basically, I like to think of them like almost like a constitutional picture or like a body typing, right? Like when you're like, oh, I'm an apple, a pear. Well, it's the same kind of a thing. So in Ayurveda, there's a kapha, which is earth energy. So you can imagine like they tend to be heavier. There's cold energy to that. It's damp as well too. So there could be issues in the body with like dampness, like sweating excessively, different things like that. Then you've got Pitta, which is the fire, right? And exactly like a fire element is, right? It's like it's up and up and the fire and it's bright and it's shiny. I have quite a bit of Pitta in my constitution as well too, right? The fire. And then there's the Vata. And the Vata is air. And air, as you know, is like quick moving. It's obsessive thoughts. It's like moving, like staying in your head. It's like the sensation of a tornado that's spinning that I was explaining about earlier on, right? So that is the feeling that Vatas get. And actually, as we age and as our bodies change, especially with hormonal changes, we tend to move more into a Vata energetic state because over time, and especially if we haven't been doing things like castor oil packs and grounding practices and yoga and meditation, over time, what ends up happening is that we become more and more ungrounded. And in fact, for me, what I feel is that this is such an epidemic in our world's population is that, and you said it perfectly with the young adults and the kids and the teenagers, they start off now at like 8 years old having major amounts of stress and even earlier if they have any traumatic experiences in their home, which many people do. Let's face it, it's like just the way of the world these days, sadly. But if nothing is done to ground the body, like move the body into a relaxed state, like the body just will continue to get more airy and more airy and more fairy. And like, when you feel flighty, that's kind of the sensation. Like I feel flighty, or if someone ever describes you as you're flighty, well, that's a reason, because your constitution, or like your body typing of who you are essentially in your energetics is more like air, right? And so air moves fast and moves in circular motions. It's this kind of sensation. And isn't that exactly what you feel when you're not relaxed, right? You're like, ah, like everything's going crazy. And so what we all want to do, whether we're a teenager or we're, moving through perimenopause, menopause, like it becomes even more important, especially if you're suffering during perimenopause and menopause, becomes even more important to ground. And the reason for grounding is simply just that you need to anchor yourself. You need to anchor yourself so that your body can do what it's supposed to do. You need to anchor yourself so that the supplements that you're taking, the medicines that you're doing, all of those things, so that they can really work well in a system that is open and grounded, and grounding you can see in the body. Actually, if I were to look at somebody, like if I were to look at you, Claudia, or one of your viewers, I would look at them, and one really cool key sign is that their pelvis is shifted forward, right? And they almost like hide their tail. If you understand the spine, we've got like the thoracic, the cervical vertebrae. Then we've got the thoracic vertebrae, which is like this area of your body. Then you have the lumbar. Everyone knows the lumbar spine. And then from the lumbar spine, you have this little tailbone, the tailbone called the coccyx. And naturally, it's curved under because it's not supposed to be completely up. But for many of us, especially if we've had histories of trauma, histories of anxiety, histories of not feeling well in our skin, we actually, as a compensation mechanism, tilt our pelvis and our coccyx more forward, because and what we do with that is, if you think about this, the energetic centers all find themselves pretty much like next to the vertebrae. You can't see them, they're unseeable. They're correlated to nerve plexuses within the body, but they're unseeable, right? But what happens if you energetically do that? You're basically cutting off this energetic center from being able to put its roots down and to
Mhm.
ground you. And so, and within those lower energetic centers, people may know them as, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakras. Those are all our earth energy chakras and energetic centers that deal with a lot of the situations and conditions that we deal with on a regular basis on earth in our bodies, right? Which is things like, feeling guilt, feeling shame, feeling, not worthy enough, not good enough, like all of these kinds of feelings. If you're suffering with those kinds of feelings on a regular basis, well, then you got to look at grounding and rooting yourself, and also being vulnerable and expressing emotion. One of the things for me was that I wasn't expressing emotions at all. Like I would break up with like 10-year engagements and to be married, and I wouldn't even cry. I wouldn't cry. I would just like keep going and keep being busy because I was so completely disconnected from the waist down. Like
Can
I
we
had no.
can we pause there for a moment? Can we pause there for a moment? Because I feel that's a good topic to also talk about. The not like basically suppressing everything. So you talked about the three chakras, the solar plexus, which is often known as the yellow one, then the sacral, right, the orange one,
Yeah.
and then the red one is the root one. That's also sexuality and being in your body, and that's the one when your pelvis is tilted forward,
You're
then
cutting them off.
your upper body goes backward and your head goes forward. So you're kind of in that weird S curve, which we see so many people now. So there's a disalignment. But I feel like what you just said is so profound about not crying, like basically not being connected, because there's also a connection to dry eyes, and that feeling of like suppressing emotions and feeling really dry
You
in
got
the eyes, which is so common also as we get into menopause and get older. I hear more and more dry eyes in relationship. And I know we're going to talk about the third eye and the connection to the
yes.
liver.
Yeah, we will.
But
Yeah,
I think that's really important to know that that emotional state, what you just touched on, is so important. And if we're not feeling grounded, we try to hold it together, right? We're trying to kind of suck it
exactly.
all in and not feeling relaxed and grounded.
And where do we hold it together? In our shoulders, up in our
Right.
heads. this is where we hold it together. And because we've moved our pelvis forward, we're not only blocking off the root chakra, we're blocking off root, sacral, and solar plexus. And all those need for their energies to be aligned properly.
And the
They
heart, right?
need
The heart is now connected. It's like now
everything,
yeah.
everything goes out of balance. And the thing that I say about emotions and expressing emotions is that's also a part of being vulnerable, right? And vulnerability is something that in our society is frowned upon, right? Oh, you can't have emotions. Oh, you can't, you can't be vulnerable. You can't show this out in person. You have to walk around with a constant mega smile. Like I realized, like looking at my wrinkles, like my entire life I've spent literally like walking around like a big smile. I mean, now I do it because I'm happy and like, yeah. It's very different of an energetic way for me right now than it was before. But before I just did that because that was what I was supposed to do. And so I had like a frozen mask, like literally like a face mask and this perma smile. And I was unable to feel anything but what was a fake sort of joy, which isn't any way to live. And no one wants to live that way. And what I love to correlate here is going back to the posture thing and just to put it all in a nice tight bow is, Brene Brown, she's a vulnerability expert and she's, New York Times bestselling author many, many times, has many, many followers. And Brene Brown always explains that, in order for us to express our emotion and feel ourselves and be within ourselves, she recommends like an open heart and a strong back, right? And what does that do? That takes us out of that position that you were talking about that's like that, right? Which is the pelvis is tilted forward and our head is hunched forward. You got a strong back, an open heart. And then I like to add to that saying, happy tail,
Mhm.
because you learn by if you stand on your two legs and you like put your feet hip distance apart, you can tilt your pelvis forward. It looks kind of like a hook, like a Michael Jackson move kind of thing. So, the pelvis tilts forward and then tilt it backwards and see where that comfortable space is. And when you tilt it backwards, you're going to start to get a bigger curvature in your spine. Now, you don't want too much of a curvature because again, that's knocking things out of balance, but you want to be aware that you're not constantly shifting into a pelvic tilt anteriorly. And what I noticed is I was constantly like I would stand and I'd immediately like close off my tail. I would close off my root chakras and my earthly energetics off right away. The minute I would be standing, and even when I was sitting. So I really had to like learn, and this is also good for us just because it's good posture also. It's like aligning your spine in the proper way, right? And so and when you do that, again, it's like you say, the tightness in the shoulders, those kinds of things happen because you're in the wrong position. Your body wasn't meant to be like this. Your body was meant to be like this, right? With the tail happy, heart open, back strong, right?
Yeah, and
So,
then the ears over the shoulders and with the plumb line. It's really interesting. This is not our topic today, but I'm curious about what you think about this because I remember being at a retreat and I learned in yoga, I always have my feet kind of parallel to each other, right?
yeah.
I actually had a lot of internal rotation as a kid. Like I was always good with the internal. But then some people stand like that, like their feet like duck feet out, right? And the instructor would always pull on those people. Look, come over and because I felt like the idea of just spreading your energy away from you versus keeping the energy aligned in you. And I don't know what you think. And I know we talk not about feet today so much, but any thoughts on that? How that relates? Yeah. Okay.
Oh yes. And in fact, I can correlate it back to my life because I grew up as a dancer, as a ballerina and like in jazz and tap and all the fine arts of dance. And in ballet, you're trained to have outward rotation. And when you outward rotate your feet, automatically your pelvis tilts underwards. So
Right.
that whole action closes off your energetic centers. So that's something that I had to retrain myself because I would stand with like one hip cocked, my foot outwards and again, what would happen? My pelvis would be tilted underwards, under. And from there, I would start having feelings and problems in certain hips because I'm not working with the right body mechanics of my body. And it literally comes down to how you're feeling in your system. Because if you feel ungrounded, you're always going to seek to hide the tail because it's a natural protective mechanism. So you're not at fault for doing it. It's just what happens naturally. But the first step to working with grounding truly isn't about like getting a grounding mat or isn't about even like getting a castor oil pack, although I'm going to recommend that because castor oil packs are superb for it. The real key is the awareness of where your body's at and understanding like your proprioception of what your body is telling you. In my clinical practice, I literally would look at patients, watch them walk. I would watch their body. I would watch their posture. I'd do like full on in-depth physical exam. And that's how I knew how to help them. It was the only way. I mean, the labs helped, of course. They could, but honestly, the labs oftentimes would confirm all the things that the body was telling me. The body doesn't lie. It tells you exactly what you need to know as long as you're willing to look at it and be curious and investigate and be understanding about it too. Like, when I figured out that I had that pelvic tilt, I looked back in my genetics and my sister and my mother, they all had anterior pelvic tilts, all had hip problems, including my sister who's 50 and has already had two hips replaced by like the time she was
Wow.
43. Yeah, to that extent, right? Because of and like so it is a big deal because we're cutting off our energetics. And in Ayurveda, there's also, and yogic philosophy, there's also something known as the koshas. So you got the doshas, which are like your body typing, but then you have the koshas, which are the different levels of your being. If you want to correlate it to like the way that we say things in natural medicine or natural health and wellness, we always say you got to look at the mind, body, and the soul, right? We always say those three things. We often don't look at the mind or the soul. We just go straight for the body and then we forget about ourselves there. But we're layers. And the koshas, it starts with the physical body, and that would be everything that you like supplement and nourish, give, nutrition, all the things that you give the body, exercise, movement, that's all working the physical body. But then the energetics is the next body, and that is done through the breath and it's done through grounding practices, right? Because once you align the energies, it's all about being grounded. And then the next body is the mind. An ungrounded body creates an ungrounded mind. You can't have if you don't have a solid foundation, I'm sorry, but the roof ain't going to be good either. just just the way that it goes. And
But
then
that
after you have your observing mind, which is the next level. And that observing mind is, as I'm saying now, is that level of awareness when you start to become aware and you start to realize, okay, wait, no, my body is telling me something right now. I'm not grounded. What can I do in this moment to ground? And there's so many different practices that we can do. And we can talk about all the different ways to do with castor oil because that I love castor oil because it's just fun and accessible and fast for many people, whether you're at home at night or during the daytime, using a belly button roller and grounding your energy. That's another way to do it. But the key is, oh, and then sorry, the final kosha, the final body is our bliss body. And the bliss body is where we're completely aligned with like divine energy, universal energy, God energy, whatever it is for you. I take no sides, whatever it is for you. And that energy is what helps you feel completely connected, completely safe, completely well, completely everything. And that energy, in my opinion, can move mountains, right? And it takes just being able to work through the process of aligning because when you get there, well, everything else that you're doing just works that much better. It just cannot not work, right?
I absolutely love this. I think the connection, like we talked a lot about grounding, but let's get more to the eyes because
Yes.
obviously there's several things I want to ask you. One is obviously the connection to the chakras or the liver, obviously the sacral chakra and the third eye or the eyes, but also you talked a lot about awareness and the mind body. And we obviously see in the brain, like our vision is actually part of the mind more. Yes, the eyes are also part of the physical body. The actual eyeball, right, is part of the physical body. But even the back of the eye, the retina, is already part of the brain. And so it's more what we would call the mind body. And in order to see well, again, we have to be grounded. Like we can't perceive and we can't be aware. And vision is a lot about awareness, actual physical vision, but also the inner vision, the vision you have for yourself, and all these kind of factors. But let's talk a little bit about, because obviously I like the chakras. It's almost like when we were little kids. I had this play set, and on the bottom was a big red ring, and then it kind of got smaller and smaller till it's
Yes.
almost like the little skies. We had to learn how to put as little babies, right, to put the rings in the right order. But basically it was a skyscraper, and I like that idea of that, all these chakras, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, and then obviously the third eye, that is all based on these lower chakras, being kind of aligned so that we don't have a wobbly and feel like all unbalanced. But let's talk a little bit about that, third eye or pineal gland, and how this all connects to that grounding, and especially the sacral or the liver chakra. Like I feel like liver is not a chakra, but that area in the body where I know as a story, I know I was always carrying tension in this chakra that is always, and to this day when I'm really stressed and I'm not aware for some reason, this is where my tightness shows up, and it shows up in my eyes, but almost, and also in my jaw. It definitely shows up in these two regions for me when I'm like out of balance, when I'm stressed, and when I'm for some reason wasn't aware because too much going on. Can you talk a little bit about that and that connection, and also how castor oil can help with that?
100% can. And here's the thing, I love that you brought up like the third eye, because right now in our society, a lot of people are over obsessed with just going for the third eye or going for the pineal gland or go hit that, go hit that. But going to hit that without being grounded is like a recipe for disaster,
Mm-hmm.
because you basically just keep on like accentuating all the tightness in the shoulders, all the fast moving thoughts, all those sensations of feeling unwell and spinning. That just gets aggravated more and more and more if we're focusing on the third eye. So this I want to make really clear, that if you're starting any energetic or type of practice, like I think it's really, really important, grounding, grounding, grounding. We've got to emphasize this. So there are certain key relationships that we find in the different energetic centers. So I split them up personally into the lower earthly centers, which are the root chakra, which finds itself at the base, the sacral chakra, which is underneath the belly button, and then in between the belly button all the way to the upper rib cage is the solar plexus. Okay, and so that's the earthly compartment. And then we have the heart. The heart is basically the bridge. The heart is the bridge in between of the earth and the heavens, to put it simply. And the heavens energetically, oh, and this also includes the arms, not the shoulders, but includes the arms and the hands. So when you do exercises like you do your breathing for your eye, you're actually activating the heart chakra. And what you're doing from an energetic perspective is bringing love to the eyes. You're bringing love, compassion, and that's a beautiful, excellent, excellent practice. I use it in terms on my platform for beauty purposes, because you can do the exact same thing. You feel the energy, and you can do it like an energetic facelift, right? Just to lift, because it's the same thing. You're basically, when you give stuff love, it's just, there's just better, everything feels better. It's just the way that it goes. Something without love dies and withers. Something with love elevates and expands and grows and becomes even greater still. So that is the key with the bridge chakra. And also, like from a spiritual literature perspective, you can consider this. This is often considered like Jesus Christ, right? Like you see his pictures, the peace sign going out in his heart, the heart that is on fire. Buddha is often said to be here too. So it's a lot of the spiritual great leaders of the world and throughout literature have their place within the heart. And as a society, we've been stuck in the earthly energetic centers, right? Think of the 80s greed, greed is everywhere. Shame, guilting of people, all of those energies are happening consistently, all happen, hiding your emotions, all happen within the lower energy centers. And then the upper energy centers are more like they're heaven. So, and it's the energy that is coming from above and from the divine. And we begin with our throat chakra, or fifth energetic center. And this here is about the first manifestation of a thought or an idea. And you can, again, I'm going to correlate to the Bible because I love ancient literature to explain these principles, because these are all formulas that they knew way back when, and they already put them in all of our ancient texts and literature. It's all there. This is all there. I'm just making it simple to understand in this day and age. That's it. But it's all there, and you can correlate and you can see it clearly, like for me, it pops out of the page. But in John 1:1, it's like, in the beginning was the word was one, and the word was God, right? And the word is like, if you want to manifest or create anything, the first thing that you got to do, well, first you got to think it. So it has to come down from above into the crown. And then you get the insight with regards to it, right? Which is your third eye. Like, is this right for me? Does this feel good to my soul? Is this my mission? Is this my pathway? But then the very first step before you actually even create anything is going to literally be to speak it out loud and speak the truth. And so many, especially women, have issues with this area because it's also the energetic centers are also correlated to different glands. And so many women have issues with this area because they're not speaking their truth of what they really truly want to create or manifest. I know for me, that was it. I was going through the motions and I was doing what my mom expected of me, what she wanted me to become. Like, I wanted to become a doctor, but it was my real driving passion was I love products. I love sharing with people. I love teaching people. I love, like, that's what makes me so happy and alive inside and expanding in my heart. But I did the doctor thing to become for my mom, and I did love it and enjoy it because it being a doctor is a form of teaching anyhow and expression. So it worked really, really well for me, and I got to learn an enormous amount, and it was a blessing, definitely. But I had to shift that I was going to do things for what felt right in my heart or for what intuitively I knew was mine to capture. Because you either go by intuition or you go by instinct. And instinct is an earthly energetic center want and a need and a save yourself from danger. And you feel that usually in your solar plexus. Think butterflies in your belly, oh, that gut feeling, all of that. Or you're coming in intertwined with the divine, and you're actually the light inside is being ignited. Your light is your soul being ignited through your third eye with what feels right for you and what intuitively is giving you the right hits. So let's break that down because this connects us to the connection in the energetic centers. So there is a strong connection between the root and the crown. And then there's a strong connection between the sacral chakra and the fifth chakra. And then there's a strong connection between the third eye and the solar plexus. So our places of either intuition or instinct down in your earthly center. And so in the third chakra, this is also what houses the liver. And again, as I was speaking, intuition, that is your divine self speaking to you. That's your greater self, as people call it, wanting you to do what you know is right for you inherently. But unfortunately, you've been brainwashed and programmed, and everyone's told you to do different things. So you think that is the way to do it, and not what your heart truly desires, and not what your greater self desires. So that is absolute key to work that connection. And again, I'm going to go back to the Bible, the story of Jesus Christ. So at the end of his life, when he was on the cross, the way that they ensured that he had passed was that the Roman soldiers actually speared his right side, which is where the liver is contained. And the connection metaphorically comes from, well, the liver housing the soul, right? Which is why on the cross they wanted to ensure he wasn't coming back, but he surprised them. And then the third eye, the connection here is that we know, well, we have our seeing eyes and then we have our internal eyes, as you said. And we know that if you want to see into someone's soul, you look into their eyes. And so they're intimately connected together. And this is why, like, my two very favorite practices with castor oil happens to be the castor oil liver pack and an eye mask, whether it's a meditative one that has different traditional Chinese medicine acupressure points, right, which I love, or if it's just a regular mask, but you apply castor oil to it, because castor oil in Ayurveda, or oil in Ayurveda, is known by the word of sneha. And sneha stands for love and compassion. So the oiling of the body is an act of complete love, self-care, and compassion. And so around the eyes, it's important, around the liver, and in any other place that you may have issues or not feeling grounded or not feeling that self-love. Because again, as I said earlier on, feeling grounded is about the amount of love you have for yourself. And so it's with nurturing more and more love for yourself as you go on, the greater you begin to ground. And part of that is the self practices of Castor Oil Packs, yoga, meditation, all these things I'm highly active with, even grounding outside. Like every time I try not to wear anything plastic shoes. Like I wear cowboy boots when I travel, especially if I'm changing time zones, in order to be able to ground, because a leather bottom on a sole is going to ground you. Whereas, all the rubber soles and plastic soles that we have, I mean, that does not allow you to ground. And just think of those words, plastic souls,
Mm.
rubber souls, right? Like we're not plastic, we're human beings in
Let's
it.
go back. Let's go back quickly. I'm with you on that. I do like barefoot shoes though, so I don't like those squishy toes. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was at an event and we were inside all the day and there was a little patch of grass and all of us we went to the grass, took our shoes off, did some grounding. But I want to come back a little bit to the, to the eyes and the oils. I've definitely been using castor oil for 7 years and my lashes. I actually put mascara on today because my lashes are really blonde, so you don't really, but I'm shocked how much longer they've become since I've been using castor oil about my eyes. And I always put it on in a lazy eight kind of balance in the sides of the brain. And then I put on, and I love, I apologize. I need to get a new one, but the one that you were referring to. So it has these little beautiful, a third eye, little metal stud, right? Yeah, you show the prettier one, metal stud, right, that goes into, and then those are the acupressure points on the eyes. So I absolutely love this eye mask. I put castor oil on, put it on, I sleep with it every night. And then my liver pack is also like a little raggedy looking. I'm
Yeah,
doing a liver
that's like
pack.
you're using it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do, and I do love we have to come to an end very soon here, but I do love your products because it's messless, because it's coated so that the oil doesn't go through. It's all organic flannel cotton, and with the
Yeah.
straps, it makes it super easy to use. But I'm like you, if it's too complicated, I'm like, no. So I absolutely love this combination of the eye mask and the liver pack. But tell us a little bit more about, so you said the eyes are the soul, the windows of the soul. We always know that.
Yeah.
And then the liver is is also the biggest detoxification organ, obviously. And but can you tell us a little bit more about that connection and why it's so good to do both together?
It's mainly because the liver also houses the soul, and what we're doing here is we're doing soul care. Literally, we're caring for our soul, and our goal is that with the liver and the eye, like to have proper balance. Well, there's a good saying that goes as so above as below, and so you can't just only address the root of things. You also do need to address the part of you that is feeling empty in your body. Because if you've been up in your head and you haven't been aligned and you haven't been connected and you haven't been rooted so that you can rise, well, then your soul won't come down, right? You won't get that energetic alignment that you're actually looking for. Because what the goal is to get energetically aligned in the heart and then spread that love and that heart out to the entire world, to yourself, envelop yourself with it, but expend it out to the entire world. And that is truly, that's the golden thing. We're here to grow ourselves, but also to grow others. And we grow through love. That's it. That's the bottom line. And so you address the liver and the solar plexus, and energetic centers either have excessiveness or deficiency. Typically, the solar plexus is known to be more excessive than anything. And that's why many people, like, their stomachs will stick out, or you can see in their physical bodies, like even like when you're gaining weight perimenopausally and you're gaining it all in your belly, that's a sign of like an excessive solar plexus as well, right? And like if there's an excessive solar plexus, well, then there's probably going to be a deficient root and a deficient sacral chakra as well. And listen, you don't have to go to all of the different chakras. You need to just go to one, like some of them, the key ones, align those, and everything else realigns. It's not rocket science that you have to align this chakra, that chakra, this chakra. You don't know. You go into the earth and you go into the heavens, and then you pull them together. And you can do that.
I also like chakra, sorry to interrupt, in chakra meditations. And sometimes you notice, like I noticed the other day I was doing one, my throat chakra felt stuck. And I know you also have thyroid castor oil packs. I personally have never used those, but you can also use I mean, sometimes I'm just like, I pull it over my head. I had a
Get it
soft
over.
throat.
Yeah, you can
But
do
yeah,
that.
so we have a whole different talk that you and I did about beauty routines for the whole face, for replacing toxic beauty products. We will link that definitely once we put this on the blog. And then somebody posted about blepharitis. We don't recommend any oil for any infectious things around the eyes. And also do not put any castor oil into the eyes. If anything, you have to talk to an eye doctor, get sterile castor oil from a compounding pharmacy. We're not putting anything
Amazon.
in the
Don't buy it
eyes.
on.
I
Yeah, don't.
felt for me, castor oil helped. I think I had a sty once in my life. I have never had an infection anywhere in my eyes. And I also definitely see a reduction in fine lines and wrinkles. But yes, everybody check with your doctor if you're not sure about something. I've never felt any bad effects on the liver because I rub the castor oil on it and put the castor oil pack on it. But yeah, in Germany where I grew up, all I remember, we call it Rizinusöl. Um, horrible word. And when you had, when you were constipated, right? So we had to drink like whatever, I don't know, a tablespoon, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then you got diarrhea. So do not drink this. It's we're talking about topical applications only, just to make clear, nobody
Yeah.
gets the wrong ideas.
And
So,
Claudia, and to extend on that, truly with castor oil, if I had to sum it down to like one thing, it gives our body good flow. And that
mm,
flow is energetic. And you can imagine because you're a physical body, you're an energetic body, your mind body, you're a bliss body. When you get into good flow, well, then everything flows well from your physical perspective, from a mental perspective, from like everything flows well. So in what I've learned over my years is that the key to life is truly like how can we encourage the balance within our body and how can we encourage good flow and no non-resistance, because it's resistance that makes us sick. It's resistance that makes us not feel well. And you and I know, and I hope the viewers out here know as well too, or if you haven't done one yet, I encourage you to do a castor oil pack because you'll likely get a very similar experience that I did the very first time, where you do feel that grounding sensation and you do feel reconnected and you feel soothed. There's a major sensation of feeling soothed when you do a castor oil pack. And even for just that alone, forget all the energetic stuff I said, even just feeling that, like for many of my patients in clinical practice, I treated pretty tough cancers, hormonal autoimmune conditions. And my first biggest win with the castor oil pack was just for my patient to have a sensation of feeling soothed. I needed a win. And that win brought them through. And I noticed that in myself because when I felt better from doing the pack, well, then I was better at my supplements. I was better at my diet. I
of
was on my plan. I
course.
was more motivated. And we need that in our lives. And thankfully, castor oil is a real ally. And, it's a tool that just also too, I think is inexpensive. It's something we can redo again and again and again. We don't need to go to a doctor's office to go get it administered. It can just be like we could just take care of our own self and do that for ourselves, add that aspect of self-love. And I just think it's just so uber powerful.
We
Like
have a
it's
question. So I know we're a little bit over time, but I feel like this is important. First of all, I also use it for oil pulling. I find
yes.
it way more efficient than coconut oil. I do it for like 3 minutes. It's thicker. So don't swallow. You just kind of swish it around in your mouth. It really helps with like the mic, right? If you want, we can do a whole episode on the oil pulling because I feel it's an Ayurvedic practice that's amazing. But I don't like to do it for 20 minutes and like so show us, that was a question. Can you show us to wrap this up? You have a black dress on. So for me, can you show us how to use the liver pack? So I apply the castor oil to my body. I rub it on my liver, but tell us how you, so
Yeah. So we have one of two ways. Let me just grab my oil here. I have it all set up. So you've got this wonderful bottle. So it's like 16.8 ounces of castor oil. So you either have two choices. This is your wrap. You can either put the oil onto the soft organic cotton side. Make sure you put it on the soft organic cotton side because this outside layer is a polypropylene layer, which is meant to be a protective barrier, which makes it less messy. Now, this is the safest form of plastic that we could find that I could source. It's the same kind of plastic that's used in yogurt containers, in edible yogurt containers. So it's safe to use for these purposes. The reason for Queen of the Thrones packs also is because our quality of the material is key because it's organic cotton. We don't blend it with rayon or any plastic or any other kind of fibers that might have been, exposed to a lot of chemicals. And because castor oil is a master carrier oil as well too. So you have the option to either pour it on your pack, so 1 to 2 tablespoons, or to place it in your hand, 1 to 2 tablespoons, and rub it over your liver. The other option, I just don't want my bottle of oil to fall down, is you can use our roller, which is another option that we have on our website, which makes it even easier. And you can roll the castor oil onto your liver, and then you simply put the pack on. So you put it here. You take the top straps. As you can see, I'm taking the top strap. Oops. Oopsie. So top strap, I typically wrap it around. Not all of you will be able to wrap it around completely. It depends really on the size of you and the width of you. And then I wrap it up in the front. And then that's pretty much it. This is what I do. It takes me less than 2 minutes. With regards to the mask, I do the same kind of thing. I apply castor oil all around well, I actually wash my face with castor oil, so check out the episode on the beauty. But if you're not doing that, you've already washed your face, apply castor oil all the way around your eyes. I love how Claudia does it with the figure
Uh,
eight. This balances right and left brain, so that's beautiful. And then I apply I call this the meditation mask because it does have soothing points, like right here in the middle is known as a Chinese point called yin tang, and it is incredibly soothing and calming to the body. So which is our goal, right? Especially when we're wearing a mask to go to sleep with, right? So you can also use these masks. So we were talking about a meditation conference that both of us attend. I bring my mask every single time, and it's the mask that I'm using to meditate as well too, because I know energetically when these points are stimulated, the energy is flowing in the area, right? And you want good energetic flow everywhere. No flow, unhappy body. Good flow, happy body.
I love that. And the meditation also when I barely ever have a headache, but if I do, if you put it in the fridge or the freezer and the little points, it also helps with headaches. I found it incredibly helpful. So thank you so much for coming back. We have a whole episode on beauty that we can link to. And then what else? Yeah, the oil pulling, I find that incredibly powerful as well. We can do an episode on that one because the mouth, the dental microbiome is very connected to eye health, by the way. I had a biological dentist on the show before, and she talked about how even age-related macular degeneration can be caused by bacteria in the mouth. So oil pulling is like, right? Let's talk about this at a separate time because I feel it's so important to, our digestion starts here. Actually, it starts with the thoughts about the food, but then like physically speaking,
Yeah, exactly. The chewing and all the good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me the platform. And I'm just super excited for people to, take what they take out of this. And if there's one thing, it's flow and grounding. Like ground in order to flow well. And castor oil packs are just such a great tool to help you to do that. Just such a
okay,
wonderful tool.
now that I said end it, I have one more question on YouTube. What about a hot water bottle on top of the liver
Ah,
pack? That sounds like a
great question.
fantastic idea.
Yeah, you can do it if you want that. I think that's really a unique personal choice thing. What I realized in clinical practice is hot can aggravate. Like if you already have an overactive third chakra, like an excessive,
Right.
like I have an overactive, like if I go on disbalance, my third chakra is overactive, then I'm creating a lot of heat in my body already. I don't want
Mm.
to body. And our packs actually naturally maintain the heat within. So
Mhm.
you already get a natural like warming sensation. So I just skip the step. I don't bother doing it unless I'm in like freezing cold and I mean, last year I was here in South America and I had no heat and it was cold. And so I was using a hot pack on my castor oil liver packs
Okay,
because
okay.
I was frozen solid and I needed it. But that was a very unique situation. And that's the thing. I think you've got to learn your body. Like, do you tend to be more hot? Do you tend to be more cold? Do you walk into a room and you're the one that's taking off all the layers? Are you walking into the room and you're putting more layers on? That'll let you know whether you should put heat, if you want more heat or less heat.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much. I think this is very important to like know what works for you. Even if something works for somebody else, it might not work for you. So really important to test things out. Thank you so much, Dr. Marisol, for coming back and explaining all this. And we would love to have you back at some point to talk about oil pulling because I think it's a simple, powerful practice. And this is, so we put a link in the chat. You created a special, I asked you, can we have a special bundle? Please, that has the meditation eye mask, which doesn't exist on the website. But if you click, use my special eye care bundle, which has the liver pack, the meditation mask, and the castor oil, and you save like I think 27% or something. So it's a great deal.
Almost actually what we're doing in that bundle is I want to inspire you also. I'm giving you the mask for free within that
Oh,
bundle. Yeah, because I really feel it's this if you can get into this practice and you can do it regularly and religiously, I mean it's life changing. It changes my life. I know when I haven't done it and I feel it in my bones and I'm like,
yeah.
no, I gotta
I
go
was like,
back. Yeah.
Mary, so we have to, I want the bundle with the meditation mask. So she's like, okay. So thank you so much for, because this is how I do it. And I obviously you can buy any other product you like, but this is my favorite combination to use. And so thank you so much for being here again. And I see you guys soon.